Police Scotland seems to act as Humza Yousaf's personal police service. But before I go into the details about that, let's have a quick recap about Humza Yousaf's career. Initially, he worked for the Scottish Islamic Foundation, which was a group set up by the SNP government in order to ingratiate the government with the Muslim community. And Humza got a job in that, obviously, because he was a Muslim. Having been risen to prominence within the Muslim community through that role, he then became an SNP candidate. And through his career, it's appeared that he's had the golden ticket. The SNP have wanted to have him in the most senior position as the token Muslim. Now, that's not some sort of scandalous accusation. The SNP is quite open about the fact that that is its philosophy. They want to make special efforts to have people from minority groups in senior positions. So in the light of that, we can assume that it's a distinct possibility that he might not have been the most competent person for the job at various stages in his career. If you look at how he's fared in the different ministerial roles that he has occupied, I think that could well be being borne out. Now, I've spoken to Muslims about Humza Yousaf, and the way they talk about him is the way that some Christians talk about some Christian MSPs. They say, we don't really care that he's a Muslim. He says he's a Muslim, but so what? Because he doesn't stand up for Muslim values in the parliament. So a lot of Muslims in Scotland find him actually very frustrating. The fact that he claims to be representing the Muslim community, but actually doesn't in terms of their values. Other things just to fill on Humza Yousaf's background before we carry on. £300,000 was given to a charity run by Humza Yousaf's mum a few years ago, over a period of 2 years. This charity for Muslim women operates from one house in Glasgow, and it was given this £300,000 by the government in order to reduce its carbon footprint. Now, I don't know about you, but I suspect if you or I were running a charity to help women from one house in Glasgow, we probably wouldn't get quite as much as £300,000 to reduce our carbon footprint. Humza Yousaf retweeted a tweet that basically said that Churchill was a racist.
White.
A couple of years ago, he delivered his infamous white speech in the Scottish Parliament. And when he went through people in various senior positions, particularly in the legal system and the government in general, complaining that they were white in a very contemptuous tone. A lot of people thought he was being very divisive. And he was also wrong in the point he was making, because the vast majority of people in Scotland are white. And even if the proportions in the most senior positions don't reflect society in general, it's inevitable that there will be a lag. If you arrive in a new country, you're not going to be the Lord Advocate a week later. So as proportions of people of other ethnicities, other races increase, there is always going to be a lag between that and proportion in the most senior positions. Just an aside about that sort of white speech, it became infamous around the world actually, got a lot of publicity. And I have to say, I found it. I was watching the debate in the Parliament, I saw that clip, made a family party video about it, and after then it just spread and spread. More and more people took the clip, and it got an awful lot of attention. My other claim to fame in this regard is you'll have heard Nicola Sturgeon called the Chief Mammy. She called herself the Chief Mammy. Again, I found that one as well in some obscure video tucked away on YouTube. Now, the hate speech legislation that Humza Yousaf pushed through the Scottish Parliament is currently not in action because Police Scotland looked at it and said, we really don't know what to do with this, we don't know how to make the judgments, and so that's on hold. But during the process, at a couple of points, I listened to Humza Yousaf speaking about the need for hate speech legislation, and my interpretation of what he was saying was it seemed like he basically wanted a law in order to be able to get people who were not being nice to him. It seemed like a personal crusade to give him a tool to attack those he thought were being unpleasant to him. But I have to say, Humza Yousaf seems to be doing perfectly well with the existing laws. Because I'm now going to go through 4 cases that I'm aware of where Humza Yousaf has got people prosecuted for what they've said to him or tweeted about him or emailed to him, etc. There might be others that I'm not aware of, but these are 4. So here's the first one from Twitter. So the person tweeted, I'll say the actual words just to so you can understand what was said. So tweeted to Humza Yousaf, "You're a packy, don't tell us white guys what we can and can't do." Right, obviously that tweet is sort of reprehensible. and there's racist sentiment in it. If that was from a Scottish Family Party candidate, for example, there wouldn't be a Scottish Family Party candidate for much longer. But we're talking about a court case here, and this person was found guilty, and it was regarded as racially aggravated, and it was considered to have caused alarm and distress to Mr. Yousaf. Did that cause alarm to him? I don't see how that could be alarming. Distress? Really? As a politician, have you not got a thicker skin than that? Were you really distressed by it? Anyway, this person was prosecuted and fined. And the judge said there's no place in our country for comments of the nature you posted on the Twitter account. I find that form of words quite confusing. There's no place in our country. Is that a way of saying it's wrong? You shouldn't do it? We would prefer if no one spoke like this in our country? But it doesn't sound a very good justification for saying that something should be illegal. It should be prosecuted, right? The defence lawyer said he's not someone who holds racist views. He's learned the difficulties and problems that posting on social media can bring, particularly when under the influence of alcohol. So claiming that the person was drunk when they put that on Twitter. Now, it may well be that that person's life in some ways is in ruins now. If they were like the local window cleaner, they might be okay. But if they were, say, a teacher or a social worker, who knows what the consequences might have been. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Here's the report there. Right, so it says, Mr. Yousaf asked the accused would you like to buy a big issue. So Humza Yousaf was on the streets of Glasgow selling the big issue to support the big issue campaign, I assume. And the accused replied, no, I don't, mate. You're not from my country and you're selling the big issue. So said, you're not from my country. Mr. Yousaf then stated, I think you will find that I was born here, pal. The accused then stated, aye, maybe you were, but the rest of the people weren't. It was also captured on camera saying, effing benefit locust and charity begins at home. Now, when he says you were born here, but the rest of the people, I assume he means people of your race, weren't. I think maybe the man's not too bright. What he's trying to say is that your ancestors at some point back in time weren't born here. You could probably say that of most people. But anyway, but look at the headline. The headline is this man was spared jail. So he's got away by the skin of his teeth from being sent to prison for saying those things, and he actually paid a fine instead. So the police were willing to take on this case, prosecute him, and he was fined. Right, case number 3. This was a message sent to Humza Yousaf the day after the Paris terror attack, and was in response to a screenshot of Mr. Yousaf's Pray for Paris tweet. So the person replied, Humza Yousaf, good Scots name, I'm sure he is 90% backing Muslim killers, be having a whip round for terrorist families soon. Again, a really stupid thing to say with no justification at all, suggesting Humza Yousaf supports terrorists. Anyway, so Smith was found guilty following a trial at Glasgow Sheriff Court of behaving in a threatening or abusive manner aggravated by religious prejudice. Right, was it threatening? It was not threatening at all. Was it abusive? I'm not sure I would even suggest that is abusive. Maybe libelous, but abusive, not really. Anyway, found guilty and fined. Right, the latest one. Someone emailed Humza Yousaf's office, one of his offices. This was after his infamous like white speech. And this person called the former Justice Secretary Humza Yousaf a racist piece of S ... in an abusive email. So the person sent the message on 11th of April 2020, and he said, only because you are a piece of racist scum, we don't need people like you in Scotland stirring up racism in Scotland, you racist piece of S ... Right, does Humza Yousaf stir up racism? I would suggest you could make a case that he does in some of his statements and some of his attitudes, some of the policies he recommends. I would say that they do stir up racial hostility. Right, was this person on Twitter being threatening? Absolutely not. Was he being abusive? Well, maybe, but in a relatively mild sort of way. I mean, you can imagine things far stronger and far more abusive someone could say. So that's 4 cases where Humza Yousaf has had Police Scotland take up his case, investigate, gone to court, person prosecuted. Now the laws that have been used here, let's just have a look at them. The first one here, threatening and abusive behaviour. Offence is committed if the person behaves in a threatening or abusive manner. The behaviour would be likely to cause a reasonable person to suffer fear or alarm, and intends by the behaviour to cause fear or alarm, or is reckless as to whether the behaviour would cause fear or alarm. Right, causing fear or alarm. Was Humza Yousaf caused fear or alarm by any of those messages? I would suggest not. I would suggest not. Right, another law that could have been relevant, improper use of public electronic communications network. A person is guilty of an offence if he sends by means of a public electronic communications network a message or other matter that is grossly offensive or of an indecent, obscene or menacing character. Well, I wouldn't say they were menacing, I wouldn't say they were obscene, they weren't indecent. Grossly offensive? I would say someone, yeah, you could say that was offensive. Grossly offensive? Where'd you draw the line? I don't know. It seems a bit of a stretch, though, to cover those tweets against a message that was sent to Humza Yousaf. Now, at the end of the election campaign in 2021, when the Scottish Family Party delivered leaflets to virtually every house in Scotland, the volume of grossly offensive communication, let's say, that we received was astronomical. I mean, just mountains of it. So some of it was actually threatening. It was threatening sort of vandalism of premises, and it was going beyond the usual sort of things you might imagine. So I took a bundle of it down to the local police station, and I stood there speaking to the officer, and I had this big bundle of messages, emails, screenshots, etc. And a lot of them were from LGBT or T activists. And I stood there in the police station. On either side of the desk where I was speaking to the police officer, there was a big poster about the police's support for the LGBT community. So as though they're just wanting to make it clear to me whose side they were on before we even start this. So I handed it over. I said some of them threats, some of them grossly offensive. Some of these emails, if they weren't grossly offensive, it's hard to imagine what would be. So the police officer had a look and said, oh yes, there are definitely crimes here. Leave it with me, we'll get back to you. And they decided to follow up on 2 of them. And I understand that someone was actually arrested for one of them. And I heard as well there was an issue of insufficient evidence, but I've heard nothing for well over a year. So I think they both amounted to nothing, one way or another. So I'm not going to talk about those 2 that they did follow up on. I'm going to show you some of the things that the police didn't follow up on. And you can compare them in seriousness for the ones to Humza Yousaf that they did follow up all the way and people got prosecuted. So see what you think of some of these. Now I had a bit of a challenge here. How do I show you the worst of the messages? There's some of them I thought, do I blank out some of the words? Do I put them on the screen but not read them, let you read it for yourself? But I decided actually I'm not going to put them up at all because I wouldn't want you to have to read them. So some of the ones that are just so obscene, beyond comprehension, I'm not even going to put those on screen. You'll just have to trust me and imagine the sort of thing that's in them. But here are a few more specific ones. Here's a comment from social media. So it's reporting on a Scottish Family Party video. It says, Scottish Family Party should be called the Scottish Paedophile Party. One of their members is an ex-maths teacher who was fired for having indecent images of a minor. Their policy is to remove vital education from a child's life that will endanger them as they reach maturity. Right, okay, ex-maths teacher. That's talking about me, obviously. And it says that I was fired for having indecent images of a minor. Pure fiction, but as scandalous and libelous as you can imagine. But the police are not interested. How about this one? You can read the thing there. Shut the F up, you inbred, etc. So again, that didn't count as grossly offensive as far as the police are concerned. Compare that to some of the ones to Humza Yousaf. That seems much more serious, much more offensive to me. Anyway, let's look at these ones here. Suck your mum, you're just a bunch of twats, please F off. You transphobic pieces of... Right, okay. Then another one of our candidates is a giant nonce. Again, absolutely scandalous, libelous message there. Police not interested in that one. Again, comments to Scottish Family Party videos, so talking about me. This guy looks like an effing pedo that's been rejected from pretty much every other party. Why should I vote for you? Shower of bigoted that you are. Again, the same sort of idea. Here's the one I would say, this is one I'd say is amounting to incitement. It says, I would never condone anyone trashing or posting graffiti all over the Scottish Family Party's headquarters, but if anyone were to do so, the address below is where you could do it. Terrible idea though, really. I mean, that's obviously incitement. They didn't realise that offices are actually a virtual office. There's not actually a Scottish Family Party office there. But again, I think that's something that the police should really be interested in. Right, by promoting porn in schools, I've learned how to make your wife orgasm. Okay, now how grossly offensive do you need to get? If that's not grossly offensive communication, what is? What could be? Here again, picking on one of our candidates, saying they're a paedophile. Now, you can see at the top there as well, you're all a bunch of effing retards. You should all be hung. Is that not getting a bit towards sort of threatening and alarming, maybe? When there's a law, like the laws I read to you about grossly offensive communication, the law is there to protect everyone equally, but of course the law's only any use if the police will actually act on it. Because some cases there's a law, but it's only any use to the particular type of people that Police Scotland say, okay, the law's been broken, we're going to do something about it. On other occasions they might say the law's been broken, but tough. In those cases the law may as well not exist. But one of my experiences with this is when I had my case with the General Teaching Council of Scotland. A lady lied to them about what the police had said to her, so the police got all the evidence that this lady had lied to the General Teaching Council of Scotland about me in order to get me struck off, and that's clearly a crime, but the police just wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't do anything. So that law that protects teachers from people maliciously reporting things about them, that law is no use if the police just say, not interested, we're not going to follow up on it. So Humza Yousaf seems to have a direct hotline to Police Scotland. Why is that, I wonder? Is it because he's been an SNP government minister? Is it because he's a Muslim? Is it because of his race? But you can see from this picture here, there's a special relationship between Humza Yousaf and Police Scotland. And when he's launching campaigns like the Dear Haters campaign, it wasn't just an abstract thing for the good of the people of Scotland. There's very much a personal element in it as well. So this is what Humza Yousaf is managing to get done to people who say things to him that he doesn't like so far. This is even before the stirring up hatred offence has actually come into action. So if you're thinking of saying something unsavoury to Humza Yousaf, I would say don't do it, because it's the wrong thing to do. But also don't do it because you might very well find the police knocking on your door. You'll find yourself in court. You'll find yourself convicted of a crime. Now, if you're thinking about saying something really grossly offensive and appalling to a representative of the Scottish Family Party, I would also say to you, don't do it because it's the wrong thing to do. But if you're really wanting to be foul and abusive, slanderous and gratuitously offensive, do it towards someone from the Scottish Family Party, because then the police are not really going to be interested. It almost seems as if Humza Yousaf has got a special relationship with Police Scotland. Having said that, just say about Police Scotland, I mean, the vast majority of the work that they do is excellent. You know, if there's a mad axeman at my door, that's who I would call, and I expect them to come along and deal with the situation. So the vast majority of what Police Scotland do is excellent. But this politicisation, partly through 40 laws and partly through political pressure, is very dangerous in Scotland. Okay, hope you find that interesting. There'll be more on this theme coming along at some point before too long, I would hope. So do subscribe to the channel and do join the Scottish Family Party via the link below. Thanks for watching.